Things are being removed from us and they're being replaced. Just normal everyday skills are being removed from us and they're being replaced. Education has certainly been replaced with whatever it is that we call it today, this indoctrination that people receive, and even if they do want to learn some particular skill, they can go to university for higher education or they can do an apprenticeship for that education, but in that environment they will only ever learn one skill. They'll never learn all the skills they need to survive in life. Skills that everybody used to have and common things that people simply used to take for granted. Just things that we would learn how to do because, well, you need to learn how to look after yourself because that's what life's about. But we don't do that anymore. We get looked after by the system. But is it really being looked after, or is it a case of forced dependency? And that's something that people seriously need to look at, folks, because when you are dependent upon something for your survival, then you are completely disempowered and you are at the whim of whatever that thing is. And generally that's the way people are in the world today, because there are many people in the world today who simply would not know how to survive without the city and without the system being
Only
there.
on Be Positive.
And there is so much of this dependency that's been created in the world today, and it happens on so many levels. Many people find it very difficult to read maps these days and to find their way around their own cities without their GPS giving them directions. It's a place that they live in, but they don't know how to actually navigate and get around by themselves, and they don't even attempt to think about it because they don't have to think about it, because their GPS will do it for them. Many people don't know how to grow their own food anymore, because they can always just go to a supermarket and buy it. They don't know how to actually hunt or gather or even grow vegetables for themselves in a garden. Many don't even know how to make a garden because it isn't necessary for them to in these cities that they live in. Many people don't write anymore. They type. And even when they type and they send messages to each other, they don't really need to even know how to spell anymore because they have autocorrect and spell checkers that will do that for them. So they don't have to think about that. So they don't have to remember how to write their language. They don't have to remember how to spell their language. They've got computers to do that for them. What happens when they need to write something when they don't have a computer? What happens if they're in a situation, look, maybe a generation down the track, maybe 20 or 30 years from now, if there was to be some sort of an event, a cataclysm, or even simply if the power were to go out and someone needed to write a message to somebody else, how would they be able to do that if they don't have the skill to pick up a pen and write down a message and they don't even know how to spell the words that they're using? Perhaps they don't even know how to write because it's something that they've never done before. They may have seen the letters on the screen and been able to understand them, but being able to draw them in a coherent way that someone else will be able to read them is an entirely different thing. And as I said, folks, it's on so many levels. What happens when a person needs to find their way around somewhere and they don't have a GPS because the power's down? What happens when they need some food but the supermarkets don't have any? The thing is, most people just don't have the basic life skills to do anything anymore. The education system simply hasn't provided them with these things. And the education system itself has changed into teaching them to be something that they're not. I think one of the most constructive things people could do for their children and for the future of the world would be to remove your children from the government-run education system and to create your own education system for these children. If the government legislature can't do that, they have no right to make any claims like this at all. We've got to realize what these people are, folks, and you don't have to do what they say, folks. What you need to do is grow a backbone and tell them to go take a hike and take control of your own lives again. That's what we all need to do. The really important part is actually asking the questions to begin with. The problem is that people just don't question anything. That's why the world is in the state that it's in. People just blindly believe. People just blindly accept what they're given. The government says, oh, you must do this now. And they go, oh, gee, okay, I don't really want to, but if you say so, I will. And so the world continues to deteriorate. And it's not going to change. Nothing's going to change from politics. It doesn't matter if you even create a political party and get in there. If you create a political party and enter politics and go into government with anything in mind other than completely undermining and pulling the system down so it doesn't exist anymore, then you're just going to end up being part of the problem, and it's not going to solve anything because we don't need government. Government is the source of all of our problems. And it's about time people realise that. It's government that is bringing about this whole smart social crediting system and everything that is being introduced to lock us down. It is government that has introduced the legislation that is removing us of all of our life skills to begin with and creating this dependency upon the system. It's government that's doing the whole thing, folks. And again, it's because we've lost touch of ourselves. And that is the problem. We're being led into a smart system and we're going to be completely dependent upon this smart system, and our dependency is going to be determined on how well we behave according to government guidelines. Think about it. Think about where we're being led. This is not a good move, folks. This is not a very intelligent thing for people to be doing, to be allowing their lives to be pushed in this direction where it is all about total control and total surveillance. And these people, folks, are the ones that are saying that you must kowtow to them and obey them in everything they do, and that is not what we elect governments to do. That is the problem. And the only way we're going to get through this is if people wake up to what is happening and stand up and do something about it now. Throw away your smartphone, folks. Throw away this smart system. Disconnect yourself from the smart system. Don't use self-service machines in shops, and stop complying with your own slavery, because very soon you're not going to have a choice. Very soon we're going to be in a system that will be almost impossible to escape from, simply because we didn't pay attention at the times we should have. All of these tools at our disposal here, if we could just get some unity and some focus on freedom, then we could establish some freedom. Stop wanting to be right in everything that you're looking at. It doesn't matter who's right. What matters is that we establish freedom, so then we won't have to argue about things. The truth will reveal itself because we'll actually have access to our lives again, which we don't have at the moment. We kept running on a treadmill thinking that all this stuff we do actually means something when it doesn't. We go to these works and work these jobs that we hate, doing things that we don't want to do, that are completely unnecessary for the survival of the species anyway, completely unnecessary for the survival of our lives. The only thing that makes it necessary is because we have to pay to be alive. So we've got to do anything we can to go and collect those credits so that we can buy the food that is around us in abundance if we would just pay attention to the earth. But we're so disconnected from the earth, and we're stuck into these cities, and we're stuck into this state of dependency. So all we do is continue to foster that. And it's ridiculous, folks. If we were to step back and just really look at things on a larger scale, this whole situation is so stupid. Stop allowing ourselves to be distracted and focus on some of the real details and the real issues that we have here, ladies and gentlemen. We really do. The whole situation we've got is controlled by governments, folks, and we need to withdraw support from these people en masse, and we need to do it as quickly as possible. And don't be afraid to call them what they are. Stop kowtowing and worshipping these people. Stop walking around and living your life in a state of Stockholm syndrome, and stop believing government or politicians are your friends. They're not. The only way we're going to get any solution from the political arena at all is if we remove every politician that is currently populating that arena and replace them with people of integrity and people who are actually going to start moving the world in a positive direction. The problem that people even think they need leaders, and that they're not prepared to lead themselves. The problem that they just don't know themselves, and they don't respect themselves enough to respect other people. What we could do if we would just respect the people around us and treat the people around us in Icke as ourselves, we could change the world in a single day. Stop thinking anybody who doesn't agree with you about everything is your enemy. Stop arguing about all these details. Stop focusing on all these rabbit holes and pay attention to your surroundings. It's imperative that you do.